All right, we're back. Welcome to another episode. As always, very, very grateful for the fact that you are choosing to listen to this. I really am grateful. I feel like I'm in a great place with everything that's going on at the moment, and I also feel like I'm having some incredibly powerful shifts in my own journey and in terms of the value that I'm gaining, the knowledge that I'm acquiring so that ultimately I can best help you in your journey in whatever way that I can. And what I was watching the other day was a podcast with Chris Wills and Andrew Huberman, and it was it was an incredible podcast episode. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. If you haven't heard of them, you need to hear of them. And one of the things that was being spoken about was the what a couple of things that we're talking about. But one of the main things was about just human growth, human performance, how we can improve, optimize, and elevate. And one of the things which Andrew spoke about was a part of the brain which is known as the AMCC. And the primary function of the AMCC, it's a part of the brain which is underlooked. It's not really heard of, but it's a it's a little bit confusing as to why it's overlooked and why it's not really heard of, because its primary responsibility is it essentially acts as the catalyst and the mechanism to move you into action for you to actually get from point A to point B. And I spoke about this briefly on my Instagram the other day, but I really wanted to go really in depth into it because I feel like a lot of the reason why we are stuck where we are, why you might be stuck where you are, why you might be ultimately not the person who you want to be, or living the life that you want to live. You know, you're not really fulfilled in who you are or the way that you live in. You know, you want more. You know, you can become more. But there just seems to be a bit of a missing link, and a bit of a block with following through on that. And what I've came to understand now is the EMCC. If the size of the EMCC is small, then the likelihood of us moving into action to get from point A to point B, whether that's moving into action to go to the gym, moving into action to make food as opposed to ordering food, or moving into action to have the conversation or start the business, or, you know, whatever it is to get you from where you are to where you want to be, the smaller the EMCC is, then the less likely you are to move into action. And that's why you might be stuck where you are right now. And it's probably the reason why you are stuck right now. And the way in which the EMCC actually decreases in size is by choosing to allow the resistance of doing a thing to take control and prevent you from doing the thing. Meaning, if you know, let's say you want to make your bed, right? Or you walk past your room, you notice your room's a little bit messy, you notice your bed's not made, or you walk past the dishes in the house, in the sink, or, you know, like whatever it is, you look at it, you know that you probably should do it, you feel a little bit of resistance of doing it, and then you don't do it. In that moment, your EMCC has just decreased in size, right? You've allowed the resistance of doing a thing, you've allowed your emotions evolving around doing the thing, take control and hijack your actions. Thus, you haven't done the thing. Thus, your EMCC has decreased in size. Thus, meaning it will compound into other areas of your life, right? Into other areas of your life. Because remember, the EMCC, you know, the subconscious mind, it doesn't filter out when I should be a certain way based on whatever it is in front of me. It just understands I don't do what I know I should do when I don't feel like doing it. That's the program that we're conditioning ourselves to operate with. Eliminate the fact that it's dishes in the sink or your bed sheets messy or starting the gym or starting the business. Remove the actual thing. Focus on the principle and what we're conditioning ourselves to operate with. In that moment, when we choose to go down the path of least resistance and not do the thing, we've just decreased the size of the EMCC, which means that ultimately that will play out and have an effect in another area of our life. So the opposite, the remedy of this is obviously to increase the size of the EMCC so that when you know you should do something, even if you do not feel like doing it, you do it anyway. And you'll likely find that your motivation to do certain things is also significantly improved, right? Because remember, the EMCC is responsible for moving us into action to get us from point A to point B. So when you choose to flex that muscle, voluntarily flex that muscle, and become aware of your feelings trying to prevent you from doing a thing, you become aware of it, and then you do it anyway. In that moment, you didn't want to do it. You're doing it anyway. It might have sucked while you were doing it, but you've done it. That's a win. Your EMCC, that's increased in size. What does that mean? Well, the next time that you try and go to the gym, you're going to be more resilient to the resistance of going to the gym. Why? Because when you went to do the dishes the other day, when you walked past, you didn't want to do it, you flexed that muscle. You flexed the muscle, you've done the thing, your EMCC grew, you then conditioned yourself to be a person who, regardless of how they feel, they do what needs to be done. That's what you're conditioning yourself to be like. That's the identity that you're forming. That's what you were doing in your brain. Okay? So within this, how can we make this a practical thing for us to employ? Well, first off, what I really want to identify with that, what this means with the EMCC is that the people who have the results that you want and who are successful, whether that be physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, in the relationships, in the success, in the business, whatever it is, the people who are successful, the people who've made it, aren't people who don't have the emotions and the resistance of doing things. They are still people who have the same resistance that you feel about doing the thing. They don't really want to do the thing. But because they've conditioned themselves over and over and over again to just do things regardless of how they feel, they've had the mind stronger than the feelings, they have the ability and they form the program which allows them to just do the work. I don't know. I don't care how I feel. That's discipline. It's the ability to give yourself a conscious demand and instruction and do it regardless of how you feel. Successful people aren't people without fears. They aren't people without resistance. They aren't people who feel discomfort in doing certain things. They experience those things. They are just people who do the thing regardless of how they feel. Because the more you flex that muscle of doing stuff regardless of how you feel, the better you are going to be at doing the things required to get the results that you want. So a practical way that we can actually apply this and, you know, grow our own EMCC and increase our likelihood of actually moving into action from point A to point B. There's many other factors within this. There's many other factors, but in this particular point, in relation to the topic of this, it's first off getting clarity as to where you want your point B to be and getting the clarity on where you currently are. What is your point A? Who am I? Where am I? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to be? That's your point A and that's your point B. Now, how can we increase our likelihood of actually doing the stuff necessary to get us from point A to point B? Well, what I'm understanding, what I'm experiencing is that when you voluntarily put yourself into an uncomfortable situation whereby you are going to do something, even though you do not want to do it, and your mind is likely giving you every reason under the sun as to why you shouldn't do it, if you implement a daily suck, right? A suck, something which you know it sucks as you're in the process of doing it. Implementing a daily suck, whether that be a macro suck, which is just like a small little thing, doing the dishes, or a large thing, which could be, let's say that is doing the dishes, cleaning the whole of your house, or the making your bed on the morning, right? A macro or a micro, small or large sucks, if we voluntarily implement those into our days and we do things which we don't want to do, our emotions and our mind is giving us every reason under the sun as to why we shouldn't do this thing, but we do it anyway. That is how we're going to grow. And in that moment, we are forming the paradigm of somebody who has mind stronger than the feelings. For me, I'm implementing cold water dips, cold water showers, cold water baths, just submerging myself in cold water. I have a resistance to do it at the beginning. I really, 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 really do not want to do it. But I do it. Why? Because I don't want to do it. Why is that important? Because I want to tell my emotions, I want to prove to myself that I am in control regardless of how I feel, I get shit done. What I'm now consciously doing is if I'm walking past certain things in my house, something looks a little bit out of place, or there's a dish in the sink, or there's a like whatever it is. I'll look at it. I'll be aware that I feel a resistance of actually doing something about that. And because I've felt the resistance and I've become aware of it, I do it. And I'm like, yes, result. I've just grew the EMCC. I've just done it. EMCC, that's grown. So when we start to implement these little macro and micro sucks into our day, we're actually conditioning ourselves to be somebody who just does things which you know should be done. Like, you know, there's things in your life that you should do, that you should be doing. You know, if you look around in your room, or if you look around in your house, or if you just become observant of whatever is in your life right now, there's things in there that you aren't doing, which you know you should do. And the more you don't do it, the smaller your EMCC grows, and the less likely you are of doing the necessary things to get you the results and the things that you want. So the bigger the EMCC, the more likely we are to move into action to get from point A to point B. The more that we voluntarily condition ourselves and put ourselves in environments and situations whereby we have to flex that muscle of do the thing regardless of how we feel, the larger the EMC is going to grow. And the more likely we are to move into action, the more disciplined we are going to become. Because it doesn't matter how we feel, it matters what's right. It matters what's required, right? Just do what's required. The less of that you do, the more you give in and cave into the emotions of not wanting to do the dishes or clean your house or clean your bed, tidy your bed, go to the gym, eat healthier, invest the money, start the business, have the conversation. The more you just put things off, which you know you should do, the smaller it grows. And the less likely you are to take action. Because remember, the subconscious mind, the brain doesn't filter through, okay, well, this is important to him, so we'll behave in this way for him there. And that's not important, so we'll not behave. It doesn't flick on and off a switch. It's impersonal. It doesn't care. If that's the condition that you were giving yourself, if that's the program that you were operating with, that I do not take action because I do not feel like doing it. And if I do not feel like doing it, then I do not do it, right? That's the program you were operating with. That's the paradigm that you were forming. That is a self-image that you were going to be controlled by, which is a self-image of somebody who is undisciplined, who lives purely based on emotion, and doesn't get the shit done that needs to be done. How far do you think you're going to get in life with that as a program? How much of a change as a person and as a quality of life do you think that you will be able to create an experience with that as an image, with that as a paradigm? Let's have some real talk with it. And have the awareness, and it's okay if you are, it's completely fine if you are, right? This is where vulnerability comes in for growth. You've got to have humility. You've got to have vulnerability. You've got to be willing to face and feel the suck of identifying the parts, the behaviors, the thoughts, the feelings of you that you operate with and are not serving you. Are you operating in a way which is similar to the type of behavior which is actually decreasing the size of your EMCC? Are you putting things off which you know you should be doing? And if you are, does it make sense why you aren't who you want to be and you aren't where you want to be? Does that make sense? Can you see the correlation? Now, this isn't to say hate who you are. This isn't to say hate where you are in your life. This is me saying love who you are, love where you are. Love who you are, love where you are, because you are exactly where you are meant to be, and you are exactly who you are meant to be at this point in time. Have that level of vulnerability and humility and awareness, self-awareness, and become observant and inquisitive about yourself. Like, am I actually putting things off? Am I making this a habit of putting things off? Because that's going to snowball, that's going to accumulate, and that will spread out in other areas of your life, your relationships, your health, your mindset, your finances, your professional life, your success, your self-esteem, your self-confidence. It'll spill out. So although it might seem insignificant walking past the dishes and just having them left in the sink, or not really making your bed, or putting off going to the gym, or just skipping that meal, although it might seem harmless doing that, you do that once every so often, it's not really going to do anything, right? It's about balance. It's about the macro and micro scale of things. But Is that just the way that you operate? Period. Is that just what you do? Not as a one-off, not as a here and there, just as a permanent thing. This is actually just what I do. And there you find the answer as to why you were probably stuck. Because you've been forming the habit of operating through emotion and making decisions through emotion. And that's where it's a paradox, because you're not always going to want to feel like you want to do something. You're not always going to feel like you want to improve yourself and improve the quality of your life. And if we are operating like that, that's why nothing's changing. So when the EMCC grows, which is done through doing the things that we don't want to do, but we do them regardless because we know they need to be done. When that grows, our ability to do the shit that we need to do to get to where we want to be, to become who we want to become, that's going to happen more frequently. And regardless of how we feel, you'll still be met with the same resistance. You'll do it regardless because you formed the habit and the paradigm of doing the stuff that need to be done regardless of how you're feeling. And when you change your paradigm, you change your life. So I hope that's provided value for you in that. I really hope it has, because it's groundbreaking. It's mind-blowing. The fact that you have the level of control to literally condition and program yourself to be somebody who gets shit done and makes progress. You can condition and program yourself to do that. And it's down to your daily thoughts, feelings, and actions and decisions. Whatever you do on a day-to-day basis, you are making deposits into a future version of yourself. So what deposits are you making? And what type of person are you going to become by the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, and the decisions that you are making in these current moments? And if it isn't where you want to be, if it isn't who you want to become, you got to change it. It'll be ugly. It'll be uncomfortable. But it's a part of the process. Eventually that will subside and you will then become more powerful. You become more capable of flexing that muscle and flipping the switch and moving into action. And that is when your life will change. That is when your life will change fundamentally. So increase some micro sucks into your days, whether that be a cold shower, whether that be washing dishes straight away as soon as you've made your food, whether that be putting them away, whether that be keeping the house clean, whether that be going to the gym, like whatever it is, put that into your day and just watch how your life will change. I promise you, watch how your life will change. It's power. So if you did find value, hopefully this has been what you've needed to hear. And if you feel like there's somebody out there who needs to hear this, share it. Send it to somebody, share it on your socials. And if you do, please tag me in it, because we do live in an age where this type of information, it's needed now more than ever. And you sharing it is you playing your part in that change taking place. And that's power. And that's beautiful. And I do think and believe strongly and wholeheartedly that is what we are here to do in life. We need it. So, yeah, I hope you found value in it. So remember, as always, your mind is the creator. You are the observer. And your life can change in an instant the moment that you decide to change. So grow the shit out of your EMCC and move. Peace.